technical difficulties. Hopefully it is fixed now. I know some people joined me right before I had to end my original live session. So if you are back here, thank you. For those who came to the original one, so sorry about that. I caught a few of the names. My first foremost, I want to thank my husband for showing me love and support, my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and who else? Also Tom, thank you so much. Tom from Dog Training Does Matter. He also was on there. Jackie from Travel Adventures with Tink, she's also on there, as well as Chris and Liz from Carnival Cruise Addicts. I just want to say thank you to all of you who came to the original live. If you come back, great. Okay, I am back. So am I better? Okay, I am back. So am I better? Is it better? I don't know. Maybe the connection of where I'm doing this live is not the best. So I may have to rethink doing the live from here at this time. Thanks, Elizabeth, so much for being here. Today's topic is pretty much service dogs. I'm talking about all things service dogs. During my lives today on Midday Chat with Shakira and Cotton, can you hear me better? I know I'm having very bad connection. Ah, thank you guys for coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. The Fam Adventures, thank you so much. Thank you, Hiroko. Thank you so much for coming in. So today we're going to talk about service dogs, the reality versus perception. Talk about service dog laws, which is the ADA regulations. If you go on Google, type in service dogs, ADA service dogs, everything that I'm going to be discussing today. Oh, you can't hear me? Let me see. My microphone is on. So can you hear me better? Can you hear me? Let me know. Okay, I see hearts, so I'm guessing that means yes. So today we're going to talk about the ADA, the regulations, and what it says about service dogs. The ADA's definition, and I'm going to read this word for word so that there's no misunderstanding or anything like that. Per the ADA, service animals are defined as dogs that are individually trained to do work or perform tasks for people with disabilities. Now, when you read that, you automatically think, okay, well, thank you all. G Riz Goated. I'm not sure who that is, but thank you for coming in. I'm not Bell. It says Bell, or you were trying to say hello. Thank you for coming in. I'm muted. You guys bear with me. This is my first solo live. Last time I had Jackie with me and she was able to take care of everything. Let me see. No, that's not that. So the Fam Adventures, you can hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Is there anybody that actually can hear me, or is because I know I've had one person say that okay, so you can hear me. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So the explanation, the definition of the ADA, dog trained to perform a task for a person with a disability. Now the question now lies, what is considered a disability? Is a person who has depression or anxiety, are those considered disabilities? Now, it can be considered a disability, but not all form of things such as depression and anxiety can be considered a disability. Disability, according to the ADA, is a person with a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activity. So if your depression limits uh, one or more of your major life activities, then yes, it is a disability. Now, where it differs is, for example, if you get depressed when you're lonely, or you get depressed, because bored, or you hear, bad news, like, a lot of people, I feel personally that everybody suffers from some form of depression and anxiety. I know I get some sad news, or, sometimes just the reality of everything I am going through may get me a little down and depressed. Hi, Chris and Liz. How are you? Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming back. Sorry about that earlier. And also anxiety. If I get frustrated or something is not going my way, we're actually learning about this at church. Anxiety could be being a bit of a control freak and things like that. So things like that are not things that require you to have a service dog, or are really considered necessarily disabilities. Now, where depression or anxiety can be considered a disability is where they cause you to self-harm. It causes you where you can't be around people, things like that, almost like borderline PTSD as well. When those things affect your life, then that is when it is considered a disability. And what you have to do is, in order to have what's considered a service dog, is have a dog that helps you with those things. And by help, mean task trained. For example, if you suffer from anxiety or depression and you do self-harm, they stop you from doing that by something that they physically do. Not just by their presence, not just by, hey, Danny, thank you for coming in, Danny. Nice to see you on the chat. They stop you from the self-harm by physically doing something, not just by being there. Their presence alone is not considered a task. So a lot of people, they take their pets for one of two reasons. Either A, because they really don't know that even though their pets make them feel better, that's not considered a service dog, or they're just, breaking the law by taking their pets to different places that pets are not allowed. Only working service dogs are allowed. So I've just covered the definition of what a service dog is, and what a disability is. The major difference between a service dog and an emotional support dog is training. Even a pet as well. I'm specifically saying emotional support dogs because a lot of people feel that, hey, my dog is an emotional support. And while that may or may not work, I'm not sure, depending on where you live, for housing purposes, it does not work for taking your dog to a public space that does not allow dogs. Let me see here. Thank you, Chris and Liz, for that. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. So back to what I was saying, even though your dog brings you comfort and things like that, if your dog is not trained for a task, it's not a service dog. Therefore, it does not have public access rights. That is where a lot of people, they get confused, or they just, they take their dogs and they figure, well, hey, if they can have their dogs, I can have mine. My dog is cute. It provides me support emotionally. It makes me feel better. But there's a big difference. A service dog has received hours and hours and hours of training. Florida is actually one of the few states that gives a service dog in training the same rights as a full-blown service dog. That is why when people go out in public and you see their dog not being perfect, then you cannot just automatically say it's a fake service dog. It could be in training. However, with that training, before you can take your dog out, you have to train it to behave in public. A dog that's barking and lunging and just being a nuisance, or defecating, pottying in a store, is not a dog, whether it's a service dog or not, that is allowed to be in public. If you take your dog and is constantly barking, that actually in the ADA specifically says that even if it's a real service dog, if the dog is constantly barking, the business is allowed to kick the dog out. And one bark or two is not excessive barking, because that could just be the dog alerting to their handler about to get an episode and things like that. So that's not necessarily mean that the dog is out of control. Out of control means that it's continuously barking nonstop. You can hear it, just keep going and going and going. Or it's like, you see a dog, it sniffs and it pees, things like that. Sniffing is not out of control. Not staring at the handler is not out of control. As a matter of fact, with my service dog, Cotton, she's a cardiac medical alert service dog. I don't have her staring at me. One, she's really small. For her to stare at me, her neck, I feel bad. So I never trained her to stare at me. As a matter of fact, when she does stare at me, that's how I know she's about to alert me. That is her alert. She stares at me and then she paws me. So staring at me all the time would actually not be something that I would like for her to do. A lot of service dog trainers do train their dogs to stare at them, and that is perfectly fine. But just because the dog is not staring at their handler does not mean that it is not a service dog. It says sniffing around doesn't mean that it's out of control, because a lot of dogs, part of their training is sniffing for allergens, making sure that their handler is not about to touch something that could cause them to have an allergic reaction to something. So they're quite literally trained to sniff before a handler even touches anything. Where that it's not a service dog, again, if it's peeing, or a properly trained service dog. I'm not saying that it's not a service dog. Peeing, defecating. What considers a dog a fake service dog is not even all of that. How you know if a dog is a fake service dog is if the owner is trying to pass it as a service dog and it is not trained for disability. Seeing a dog inside of a store where they're not supposed to be doesn't mean that the person is a fake service dog. It's just the person is just breaking the rules. That is where, I have a video, as a matter of fact, where I went into an Apple store at the mall and this dog just started growling and lunging at Cotton. I cannot say it was a fake service dog because it didn't have a vest or anything identifying it as a service dog. It was just a dog that was in a place where it wasn't supposed to be. So therefore, it's just the owner broke the rules. So that's another way of, hey, is it a service dog? Is it not a service dog? What can you do if you see a service dog? As the general public, truthfully, what I suggest you do is talk to the to a business manager, a business employee. Do not approach the owner. The handler or the dog. You don't want to do that because in the slight chance that it is an actual service dog, just maybe having an off day, or just still in training or whatever the case may be, you approaching and confronting the handler may set something off. It may set off a PTSD, a panic attack. If they have a heart condition such as myself, you could stress them out so much to where they end up having an episode, depending on how you approach them, of course. So to avoid any of that happening, and again, it's not your job, to get them out of the business. It is the business's job to get them out if they are indeed a fake service dog. So talk to the manager, talk to the employee, let them handle it. Businesses do have rights and they do have rules that they have to also follow. That I am going to actually cover next week in my live. The rights that businesses do have and what they need to do when a person enters their establishment. If we do that, trust me, I'm trying to help eliminate some of this fake service dog epidemic that we're going through. That is why I'm doing this live, educating. I do later on in my live, in my upcoming weeks, I am going to go over traveling and cruising with service dogs, because a lot of people with service dogs, they don't realize that because of the problems they have just going to a store, and in the public, and people, fussing and yelling at them about their service dogs, they don't think that they can actually vacation and cruise, or travel with their service dogs and not have these issues. So in my upcoming lives, in the upcoming weeks, I will be going over how to do it properly, what paperwork you're gonna need to travel and cruise with your service dog, and how to, and there's even extra training that you have to do before you do these things. No matter how well trained your service dog is, there's extra training, because you cannot possibly train a dog for every single life scenario. You can't. You don't know what's going to happen. So, but there are things you can do to prepare them for these. Let me see. I have here. I wonder, hearing from God. Thank you for coming in. I wonder if service dogs can become untrained. So the answer to that is kind of yes and no. Think of it like us humans. If you learn a new language, right? But you don't practice that new language, you may forget things. It may be something where you just need to be reminded, or you may need to go over some things. So can they maybe forget, in the sense of, since they're not doing it all the time, they may forget, yes. But as soon as they are reminded, it's okay, they snap right back to it. Because even with Cotton, I mean, we do travel, we do go to places, but we don't do that all the time. Believe it or not, I spend a lot of time in bed, because I have multiple disabilities, not just a heart condition. I have multiple disabilities. And quite often, one or two of my disability flares up, and I'm not able to go anywhere, no matter how much I want to. So I spend a lot of time in bed. And because of that, when I do go out with Cotton, sometimes she does forget, hey, you're working. So she, I have to kind of just remind her, give her cues, and then she kind of snaps right back into it. And this is why I say that I would hate that somebody, during one of her little, quote unquote forgetful moments, sees her doing something that she's not supposed to be doing. And I'm sorry, I'm in my car and I'm going to turn it back on. Sees her and then says, oh, that's not a real service dog. I mean, I already get a lot of the crazy looks because of the fact that she's only 4 pounds. Most people, when they think service dog, they think a big dog. Service dogs come in all sizes. It doesn't matter how big or how small they are, as long as they are able to perform the task that they are trained to do, they're fine. Clearly, I cannot use her for mobility. So that's what I mean. Make sure that the dog is capable of doing those tasks. Let me see here. I have, how often do you have to keep up with her training? Well, what I actually do is I have a group. Tom from Dog Training Does Matter. He is awesome and amazing. Go check him out. I join his groups once a week, and I kind of like as a refresher whenever. And I do try to go every week, but sometimes I'm not able to go, as I said before, depending on what my body feels that it wants to do that day. But I do try to make it as often as I can, at least once a week. And I kind of, just as a refresher to keep her fresh, because I don't go out with her and I don't practice these things all the time, and distractions. And it's a group of dogs there, so she gets a ton of distractions. And I often, practice even throwing myself on the floor to see what she's going to do about it, if she's going to task or, things like that. So I do that. Some people practice at least 5 to 10 minutes daily, just to kind of keep their dog fresh. I tried to do that before, but it's not something that I can maintain, because again, if I'm having a bad medical day, I'm just in bed for most of the day. Let me see. I'm curious, how long did it take to train your service dog? So with Cotton, she was tasking by 12 months of training. Around her 12-month mark, she was already tasking. As soon as we got her, within the week, she was in obedience training, which is what you have to start with. You always have to start with obedience training, and then once they have, at least this is what my trainer told me. My trainer for a service dog was actually Hannah from Hannah's Helping Hounds. She's the one who trained Cotton to be a service dog. I did group training with Tom from Dog Training Does Matter. But I want to give definitely props to Hannah from Hannah's Helping Hounds. She did an amazing job with Cotton, and it took about 12 months before she started tasking. But as any good handler would tell you, training never ends. It doesn't matter how much you trained. It doesn't matter how long they've trained. Training never ends, because as I said before, you cannot possibly train your service dog for every single life scenario. And the more you go out, the more you interact, the more new things are going to come up. What you can do is train your dog for general things and very, very important things such as listen. For example, I trained her not to just pick stuff up off the floor, but I trained her to ignore things when I tell her to. And that came in handy when we went to a fair and somebody was throwing treats at her, throwing marshmallows at her for her to eat. And I told her to leave it, and she left it. Let me see here. Danny, yes, I want to talk about Danny Dizzle Super Ninja Mod. Go to her channel. She has a fundraiser for her rare syndrome. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't remember all the specifics, but she is literally one of only 500 people who have this rare condition. And she's starting a fundraiser. So please go to her channel and support her fundraising efforts. Danny Dizzle. Sorry, I'm like I said, I'm in my car. Danny Dizzle Super Ninja Mod. She's actually in the chat, so if you copy that, go to YouTube, you'll see it. Or Danny, if you want to go ahead and drop a link to your thing. As I said, I'm new to this. I don't know how to do all the fancy stuff as far as posting people's stuff. So if you want to go ahead and drop your link, please feel free to do so. Let me see. How old is your service dog? Cotton is actually going to be 2 years old in a few weeks. Let me see. What trainers do you recommend in your area? How much does it cost? Well, as I said, I recommend Hannah's Helping Hounds. She is amazing. And the price varies. It all depends on what all you need. My Cotton, I took her in, like I said, within the week, so she was a puppy. So she didn't have any bad habits that we needed to break her from and then train her. She started, fresh. So depends on your dog, depends on what your disability is. As I said, mobility disabilities are different than medical alert disabilities and things like that. So the price is going to really depend on your dog, and also what task you need. Now, please keep in mind, and this is very important, while any breed and any dog can be a service dog, not any dog can be a service dog. And you're probably thinking, like, isn't that the same thing? What I mean by that is, think of us humans. Any human could be a police officer, but can any human have the temperament, the qualities needed to be a police officer? That's basically the same thing. While any breed and any dog can be a a service dog, not all of them have the right temperament needed for it. I actually have to go because I have to drive off, and I'm in a car, as I said. For those of you who came, thank you so much. Tune in next week. If you work for a business or own a business, tune in next week. I'm going to talk about businesses and their rights. When it comes to pets in your stores and service dogs in your stores, what you can do. Thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulty. I definitely set aside a lot more time for this live, but because of what happened, I wasn't able to start it on time. But by next week, I will start it on time, and it'll be a lot better, I promise. Thank you again for joining us, for everybody. And actually, this is my first solo live, my third official live, because the first two, Jackie from Travel's Adventures with Tink, helped me. So again, thank you guys so much for coming, and I will see you guys next week, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.